New things are said, new posts are shared, another dollar is made, another dollar is spent. How do you keep track of it all? How do you manage your money well? This isn't just another finance podcast. We have real conversations on the ins and outs of building your wealth, using advice and applications from business owners, market makers, investors, and more. Money talks, but you're listening to Wealth Whispers. Thanks for joining in. I'm your host, Josue Garcia. Economic shifts are nothing new to the American market. Since the end of its golden age, the US has been hit with waves of recessions and crashes, each of them setting us back a little further. But not only does each recession introduce financial hardships, they challenge core American values, those notions of work ethic, a college degree, and the ability to provide. There was once a time when frugality hit, these values and achievements would soar the average American from temporary hardship into a stable, comfortable life. Today, however, it puts one large portion of the population into a consistent, struggling cycle, a population that continues to struggle to reach the standards of its time. Millennials. Every passing year, it becomes more prominent that there is a growing economic gap between millennials and previous generations such as baby boomers. This gap has caused prevalent stagnation for younger society. Understanding the gap is the first step to truly understanding how to climb out of it. The discussion of a financial gap between the young and old is nothing new. It's common knowledge that when compared to baby boomers, the majority of millennials began their adult lives in a difficult socio-economic position. However, what most older generations outside the millennial demographic don't seem to understand is that this gap is incredibly wider than commonly thought. On December 3rd, 2019, Christopher Ingram, a writer for the Washington Post, published his article, Staggering Millennial Wealth Deficit in One Chart, to show just how wide the gap already is. Ingram looks at the median age of millennials today and compares their wealth value to the value of baby boomers at the same age, finding that baby boomers born between 1946 and 1964 had already collectively owned about 21% of the nation's wealth at the median age of 35 in 1990. Then that exponentially grew to over half of the nation's wealth in 2019, while at the same time, millennials averaging to their early 30s today make up a little over 3% of the nation's wealth. It's important to note that the term wealth here isn't just attributed to income. This includes assets such as property, houses, stocks, bonds, etc. With the cooperating booms in favor of old wealth, the boomer generation has been able to further embed these beliefs and habits as the norm in American culture. A main example being that one should not only be able to afford college tuitions, but land a stable job that earns enough income to buy a house, a car, and provide for a family. Ben White, in his article, How the Baby Boomers Broke America, published for Politico on October 26, 2019, speaks with political scientist and fellow of the Center of American Progress, Roy Tuxera, about this economic notion most boomers carry with them. Tuxera says, quote, "They grew up in a time when there was something close to full employment almost all the time. Wages were going up with productivity, and productivity was going up very fast. Incomes were growing at the rate of 2% a year. Something we haven't seen since," end quote. The common part-time job at the time was enough to pay for low tuition rates, and in a world without the internet and technology today, a valued college degree would get them easy opportunities to secure career positions. Major political shifts in the last decades have changed policies regarding businesses, tax brackets, and the middle class, while helping the boomer generation maximize wealth despite the dire changes in today's market economy. Their mentality ignores any challenges younger generations face as a result of these changes, while they continue to pull the future economic progress downward. In seeking a way to climb out of their financially insecure position and pressure from adults around them, many millennials followed their parents' path towards higher education, carrying the same notion, hoping they too would land a so-called well-paying job. So we know that higher education prices have skyrocketed, we know that the housing bubbles are expanding and getting bigger, and we know it's getting harder and harder for people out there. So what do? Despite the younger generation accumulating most financial pressure, a 2020 Wall Street Journal article titled A Guarded Generation, How Millennials View Money and Investing, finds that 70% of young adults are willing to start investing as soon as today. The problem is, most don't even know how. At its simplest, financial instability stems from lack of knowledge. The lack of this knowledge comes from an older generation just now waking up from its golden daydream. In the next episode, we'll explore these three topics in depth: the job market, the housing market, and the education market. Each of these have a domino effect on each other and are carefully intertwined. So it's important to know the ins and outs of them now that we've established the overall problem. Thanks for joining in on another episode of Wealth Whispers. I'm your host, Josue Garcia. Stay plugged in for new episodes coming your way.